In today's episode, we are going to be covering why HVAC and AC inspections are important, how they work, and then we're also going to be going over how to know if your AC is towards the end of its life, how you know if your furnace is towards the end of its life, how you know if the ducting is towards the end of its life or contaminated in one way or another, and then what you can do about it. To help us with that, we have Kevin Allen and Kelly Long with AirWorks. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you?
Great. How are you? Thank you so much for having us.
Of course, of course. So it's really interesting because most buyers get a home inspection, but not all buyers get an AC and a furnace or a heating inspection. But recently we've had a couple of issues where mouse like to get into the ducts in the attic and chew up the ducts. And then in some cases, it's released some asbestos, and then it creates like this big issue. So I wanted to have you guys on to just talk about the importance of having an AC and HVAC inspection. So what does an HVAC and AC inspection look like for maybe somebody who's considering purchasing a property or just somebody that has some concerns about their AC or HVAC?
That's a great question, Jose. So, everybody usually gets a home inspection, and he's more of a generalist, right? So, if you go to your general doctor and you say, "Hey, check me out," and he says, "You got a heart, it's beating, you look good," right? That's the end of it, right? But if you've got a specific thing you want, you need to go to that specific person. So once we get in there and we're able to look at that, let's go ahead and start with, just looking at the mouse chewing at the duct, right? So maybe he noticed that, maybe he didn't. To begin, 30% of air is lost through your ductwork when it's not properly installed, sealed, all of that stuff. So there's a lot of loss in the ductwork in a whole. That's obviously what gets the air from the equipment into the home. So you talk about 30% loss in there, that's drastic. Not even talking about asbestos or the mouse chew, that's just that right there. But if you talk about the mouse chew, when we incorporate a home inspection, we're going to be looking at the entirety of the system. So the ductwork, the furnace, the coil, the condenser outside, the refrigerant loop, all of those things. When you have a interruption in the duct system like that, like a mouse hole or poor sealing, really what you get, even though that duct potentially, let's call it on the supply side, and that supply side would be what's distributing air into the home, what happens there is you actually get what they call the Venturian effect. And even though it's a positive duct, it actually ends up sucking air in through the leaks around the ductwork. So a lot of time you're actually sucking in the attic air or the potential asbestos that's in the environment. So you're bringing in, attic air. Let's talk about the fires. We had fires. You're actually sucking in the air that's in your attic into your home, and you're actually reducing the air quality in your home just by running your HVAC system. Yeah. So they're like, hey, put a great filter in there, clean the air, but nobody really talks about the distribution of the air, which is huge on the ductwork. So it's overlooked often, and it's really crucial to the system, the life of it, and the performance of it.
I love it. Now, I think what you said there is crucial because they sent me pictures of the ductwork. And when you said it's sucking in air from the attic, I just imagine like all the rips and tears that it had and that being sucked into like the air that you're breathing in. Let me ask you this, like, do all ducts have asbestos, or is that something that only certain ducting or certain brands or certain years have that?
Yeah, so not all ductwork has asbestos. It's usually the older ductwork. When about 1980 they stopped using asbestos. If you had it in your stock, you were allowed to use it up. So if you were a builder and you purchased for a track and your home was built 1981 and they already had it, and I've seen this in homes where they've got 5 duct runs that are flex, and then the 6th one is asbestos because they had it. So they're allowed to use it off, burn it off in that case when they stop. So not every home has it.
And the reason I think that's important as well too, because if it's basically pulling in the air and you're breathing that stuff, that's when it really can get like ugh.
And I'd also like to touch base on, you had mentioned rats. They leave things behind. they leave their their poop and their pee and all that stuff, their feces around, and that you're breathing that in too. So that's also being brought back into your system that you're now breathing inside your home.
Yeah,
So
which
it's a
is
safety issue at that point, definitely.
Safety issue. You also don't know where they stopped, right? So just because there's a hole right here doesn't mean they just hung out right here. They could have gone 100 feet that way or 100 feet that way, right? So we don't know, and so it's important to look at the entirety of all of that.
Got it.
You know,
Here's what I wanted to ask you guys as it relates to brands. So, like in electrical, I think that there was like a brand from back in the day that was recalled, and that brand was more prone to cause fire issues. And anytime a home inspector sees that brand, it gets called out automatically. In the AC and heating, is it the same thing? Or in other words, how do you know if a AC or heating is towards the end of its life or whether it's still going to be functional?
yeah, so I think that's a great question. I mean, I know like the Zinco electrical panels have had
Yeah.
fire hazards and recalls. In the HVAC world, there are pieces of equipment that have had recalls, fire hazards. Most of those issues actually were on the installation process. They were set on plywood. The flame would roll out; it would catch the wood on fire. So there's multiple things there. But the lifespan of an HVAC system is usually 10 to 15 years. You might be able to get 20 out of it, but really it all depends on how it's used, where it's located, and how it's maintained. Um, it's like a car. If you never maintain your car, you never change the oil, you're running on low tires, it's not going to last very long. It's going to struggle. So same thing on the HVAC side.
What does HVAC maintenance look like? Because to be honest, like, and this is me being like naive, like I don't think like at my previous house like I ever maintained the HVAC aside from changing the filters. What does that look like?
Yeah, so that's like the thing. Everyone's like, change the air filter, right? But there's a lot more goes into it. We're looking at the duct work. We're tightening electrical fittings. So copper expands, contracts as it gets hot and cold. So we make sure those fittings are tight. When you have poor connections, your amp draws can go up, causing motors to overheat, causing them to shorten the lifespan of them. The airflow, the electrical, the refrigerant, the drain lines, dirty coils, dirty blower wheels. So the function you've got a controlled flame in your furnace, right? I don't let my kids go in my attic and take a lighter up there and light it, right? But you've allowed us to put a furnace up there, and now you're not inspecting that flame ever again, right? So make sure that there's no problems up there. And those are those recalls that have happened because no one's maintained these pieces of equipment or caught them on the front side. So it's not just one item. We want to look at the entirety of the system. I call it like a physical for yourself, right? You're getting a physical on your HVAC system, making sure everything's working properly, preventing issues, and trying to get in front of them. Trying to be proactive rather than reactive, essentially. So nobody wants water coming through their ceiling. Nobody wants to breathe feces. Nobody wants a fire in their house. None of that is fun. So it's really preventative on all of those measures.
I always recommend it as like an oil change on your car. He said like a physical on your home, but like it's one thing you're going to put a lot of money into if it ends up breaking, similar to your car as well as your body. Really making sure it's being maintained, having a professional come out and take a look at that. We recommend once a year, twice if it's an older system, because we truly recommend you replacing those filters at least every other month. Because you don't want to continue to breathe in bad air. Those filters should be changed more frequently. And we love to come out and do that, but we also recommend those maintenances as well to the system.
What is a typical range for like preventative maintenance, basically? Like meaning like to come out once a year. What is that typical range in pricing? And then what is that range for like a actual inspection for AC and heating approximately? It doesn't have to be exact. It could be like obviously the size of the house is. Yeah.
We offer family plan maintenance. It's $14.99 a month, and what that gets you is your maintenance for once a year. Your diagnostic fees are free for that time through that maintenance. So if you do have an issue, you just give us a call and we'll come on out for free with having that maintenance program. And with that, it also offers, we also have a filter system as well. If you'd like to order your filters on Amazon and just get more for your money on that side, we'll be able to replace those when we're in house with you.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great. And with the inspection, it's $150, I believe, a system.
That's a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And you get a full written report that the service tech will provide for you on site, as well as recommendations or repairs.
I love that. Now, let me ask you this. What are the things that usually are wrong with a heating and AC unit? And from those things, what are things that can usually be repaired? And what are things that are like, no, this thing's gone?
Sure. I love the answer. Let me go back. So on our maintenance program, we also have a whole home program. I know we're here talking about HVAC, but we also offer $24.99, includes plumbing.
Correct.
And then you get a HVAC visit and then a plumbing visit, which we'll talk about on a different podcast, why it's important to keep plumbing in your house running. So
good job. Thank you on that one.
Back to your question, Jose. So the unrepairable things are like cracked heat exchangers, not usually recommended by the time they crack or ruptured, grounded compressors, open windings, things like that, that are massive cost and the system has been damaged. Those typically, you can repair them, but the cost of the repair versus the replacement outweighs your benefits, especially when you're in that age range. If you're getting to the repair cost of, let's say, $3,000, you're now spending money on an old piece of equipment that is still going to be old with, let's say, a few new parts in there, and everything else is still old. So when's my next breakdown? What's it going to cost me? Do I want to deal with this? How uncomfortable is it going to be for my family, myself in this breakdown? Versus, okay, replacement's a few $1,000s more, but now I've got all the warranties for all my parts. I've got labor. I've got parts. All of those things are covered. I don't have to worry about it. So, it's broken down to like $3 a day for a new system, right? So, I mean, you're talking about less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks for replacing your system versus, let me put this money here and it's never going to give me value, and then I'm going to have to pay $3,000 now for a repair, and then I'm going to still have to buy a new system down the road. And if we just said it was 12 grand now, down the road it's going to cost me 15. Oh no, it's not, because you already spent 3 on repairs, so that's already 15 plus what's the increase in the cost of goods and everything by the time we get there. So, it could cost you 18 more instead.
Yeah. What about proper installation? Is that ever an issue? Like, I know that obviously I think you and I were having a side conversation one time, and I think you mentioned to me that at times you receive phone calls from somebody that maybe did it for a little bit less, but now they can't find them, or basically they can't get a warranty. Is there ever faulty installation? And then also, what does a warranty look like for your company as well, too, if you guys do replace the system?
To the warranty side of things, we offer different levels of warranty as well as a manufacturer warranty. So there's 2 sides to the warranty that we offer at AirWorks. We have a 3, a 6, and a 10-year labor warranty, which a lot of companies do not provide. The reason we do provide it is because we truly do believe in the installation process. We don't cut any corners. We're not going to sit here and, nickel and dime you. We're going to do it right. We're going to pull the permits. We're going to do it to code, and we're going to have a good install with it. And if it's, if there's something wrong with it, we will take care of that and make sure it's handled on that side. And that also combines with your manufacturer warranty, which generally is about 5-year parts on your compressor or on your condenser, and then 10 years with your furnace and your compressor. And we'll keep that in form too with everything.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now,
along with the manufacturer warranty, they do require you to do regular maintenance. So it helps keep up that warranty with the manufacturer when you're doing the regular maintenance. And again, staying in front of it. Nobody wants to get to 5 years, 6 months, 10 years, 6 months, and your warranty's out like in your car, right? So if we catch that at 4 years or 9 years, we're able to get in front of that warranty issue and get it handled, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Nobody woke up this morning and was like, today's the day I'm replacing my HVAC and I'm so excited about it, right? It's like, oh, wow, I've got to do this now. I don't have a choice, right? You kind of feel held hostage on that. a little bit. And then you'd asked also about the quality of installation. Installation is huge, right? I often use a coffee straw. I'm like, if you were to breathe through a coffee straw all day long, how far would you make it through the day? Not very far. I do a lot better with the McDonald's straw, right? So when they install this system on the existing application and they don't take all of the correct readings, your system is starving for air or whatever it is. And the reason it died before, it will probably die again if that's not addressed, right? So it's not just take this pill and your symptoms are gone. What's causing the symptoms? Let me fix those symptoms, and now I will have a system that lasts longer, more efficient, more comfortable in the home. So
what are some of the like faulty things that you see as it relates to installation? Like meaning like obviously you have to go in there and fix other people's work sometimes. What are like the or like because sometimes people think that less price is better, and in a lot of cases you're receiving something inferior or less quality. Not in all cases, but in some cases. Where do you see like other vendors typically cut corners that maybe as a consumer I wouldn't realize it unless somebody like you is like, oh man, like look, he installed this type of pipe. Like I was told recently that they should have installed a different type of pipe because something was corroding already because they didn't install like an exterior pipe. And I know that it's a small cost, but they do those sorts of things to save a little bit of money at times. So what would you say?
yeah, so I should have saved my straw example for right now, but that's okay. So I mean, like the sizing of the ductwork matters, the sizing of the electrical, sloping the equipment, shaving dollars off cost you hundreds later, right?
Yeah.
So we're saving pennies now and we're spending dollars later essentially. And so I'm trying to like think of like a good example of where people are saving money. It's probably on the parts and components of what they're putting in. One of the examples we use on the plumbing side is you go to Home Depot and you look at a Moen faucet and you look at our Moen faucet. They're the exact same. The problem is the Home Depot one is less expensive than the one from the plumbing supply house. The one at Home Depot has plastic components in it that wear out much quicker than the one that you're buying from the plumbing supply house. So, let's call them $50 in difference. This one you're going to have to replace 3 times before you replace this one. So which one did you really save money on? Not only do you have to buy this again, you have to pay labor again on it. So it's looking at the longevity of what it is, not just the here and now.
What brands are better for AC and heating, if you don't mind me asking? Or like what brands offer the best warranty, or what brands if that's even a factor, or what should somebody look to when evaluating a heating or air system as it relates to brands or BTUs or different metrics that I can't pronounce? I'm kidding.
Yeah. So when you're looking at a brand, you should be looking at the company. That's where it starts. And then you should be looking at what the homeowner wants. So if we're looking at a homeowner that's like, hey, I want an energy efficient system. I want to be really comfortable all the time. I want low humidity in my home. All of these things. I don't have solar. We should be getting, more of an inverter style system because it starts at a low speed and it ramps up kind of like a dimmer switch versus a traditional system shoots on all the way and then runs here and then turns off. So, it's not just brand, it's really the installation. Like the previous question, and those really marry together to make the perfect system. So each application is going to be different for the customer and what they're looking for. Your rental home is different than your personal home on the cost of what you're doing.
So it's more custom tailored to whatever the consumer needs and wants, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you may want a Bosch, or you may want a Train, right? But why do I want the Train versus the Bosch or the Rheem, right? I mean, we could go on with Carrier and all that stuff. What are the features you're looking for? Because things are well marketed, right? Like everybody's got an iPhone, it feels like, right? Or most people. And so why an iPhone? They were really good at branding, really good at marketing, right? That type of thing. So there's a brand thing, but really it's the company that's installing it, making sure they're doing it right at the end of the day.
I piggyback to that. It really goes back to that question before, how the installation's done. When I tend to talk to customers that call in and have questions about brand, it's really, I give them the analogy of, you go to Target and you look at 2 boxes of tissue and you have a Kleenex brand and you have your Up and Up Target brand. You're getting the same material on the inside. You're just paying for a name on the outside. We truly, like, going back to that question, we truly believe on the installation process over the brand itself and understanding what the consumer is looking for.
A lot of the interior guts, and I hate to tell this to everybody, are the exact same from brand to brand. So it's not, the inside of them are all the same. I talked to this guy who used to sell VCRs, right? You remember those things that took those little tapes, you know? He's like, they just took covers off and they put them on the other one. They all came from the same place. It was, RCA, Sony, whatever, right? They were all, the covers were different. That was it. So it's just a marketing thing, and pretty much interiors are all the same. There's a few that have a little bit of difference in them, but for the most part, they're all the same. And so, let's look at what's good for the customer, not what's good for, the marketing side.
So let's say that during an inspection, it is required for you to change the system, HVAC and AC. And how long would that process take? Because I know you guys said that you guys do it the right way. You guys get permits and everything like that. The reason I'm asking, let's say that we're in a 30-day close of escrow. Would that delay the closing of escrow, or what's a reasonable time window to get that done, just in case agents are wondering, or even consumers are like, hey, I want to get this done. I want to get this done, basically.
Who's replacing the HVAC system? Is it the sellers or the buyers?
So let's say, I actually have a situation right now where the buyers chose the vendor, but the seller's paying for the vendor. But I think we're structuring in a way where the vendor's getting paid through escrow and the repairs getting done after the close of escrow, so that it doesn't cause any delay. But I just thought about how long does that process take, just for my personal knowledge? And is it better to structure it that way where the repair gets done after the close of escrow, just to make sure that there's proper time?
I think there's multiple ways to cut that. So being paid out of escrow is a win for pretty much everybody, because it doesn't really come out of the seller's pocket, doesn't come out of the new buyer's pocket. The HVAC company gets paid. So that's a win for everybody. In the time frame, an installation is 1 to 2 days typically. Obviously, depending on what needs to be done, sometimes we roll into a third day. How many systems, how big the home is, but 1 to 2 days. The interesting thing you said is in there was how quickly can it be done. So they're in California, only 13% of contractors. I'm going to repeat that again. In California, only 13% of contractors pull permits. So we are in the top 13%, probably more than that, in pulling permits. So if you pull a permit, you have to have a great relationship, not only with the city or county you're working with, but the HERS testing, which is a third-party state inspector that comes out. So typically we can get all of that done at a pretty quick pace. I would say, correct me wrong here, Cal, but I would say within about a week, maybe a week and a half, we can probably knock all of that out with permits and inspections and everything.
I would definitely say about a week at the most with getting all of that inspection done and everything. Maybe even less if we needed to push it, depending where you were on that 30-day escrow.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So how do you know if the system is leaking?
How do you know if it's leaking refrigerant?
Yeah, like it basically, like what can it leak? Like, is it just refrigerants? Is it gas leaks? Is it carbon monoxide? Is that a thing as well too?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So yes, you can leak refrigerant. You can leak air. You can leak gas. You can leak carbon monoxide. So leaking anything is bad, right? So let's start with the refrigerant. So refrigerant is a closed loop. If you have to fill it up again, you have a leak. And so if you're working on the buyer side, you may have not done any service work for the homeowners before, so you won't have any past history. Yeah. Obviously, the agents can ask for that. When was the last service? If you figure out when it's last service, you'll probably see it on the receipt what they did, right? I've gone to homes where, they just had the AC guy out a week ago to top it off with refrigerant. And they're like, well, how'd you know? And I'm like, there's a ton of oil around this thing. You can see that the guy didn't even clean up after himself, right? So there's a problem here. You're going to want to address this. So finding a leak, obviously the condenser that sits outside runs through copper lines, through the walls, into the indoor unit. You can't see all of that, but you can start getting some telltale signs on what's coming up with that. We're human. Remember that. We're not perfect at anything we do. We are human. We're doing the best we can on that. So gas leaks, there's gas detectors and obviously your nose, right, to go around and look at the gas lines, make sure we're not leaking. For leaking air, we would just do, visual inspection on everything, check everything out, see what it is, all of that stuff. You can do a third-party test if you really want to get into that, where they block off registers and all of that stuff, and they do a percentage leakage test. If I was buying a home, I wouldn't really recommend that because of the cost, and then are you actually going to do something? And you've done a lot more of these transactions I have. Most sellers aren't going to pay for you to seal your ductwork. You're just going to have to, ductwork's bad, we're going to replace it. Let's get that in the the bidding process here. And then the last one is carbon monoxide. We do take readings in the home to confirm how the furnace is functioning and if it is leaking anything. Typically what we'll do is we'll get a rating on that piece of equipment to verify how it's functioning on a full scale.
Got it. How long does the inspection typically take?
It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours, I would say, depending how many systems you have. A thorough one, if it's just a furnace, you're probably looking at about an hour, hour and a half. Full system, 2 hours. And then I would say an additional hour for every system on top of that, since they're already there with their tools out and all of that.
We love doing the inspections at the same time, if possible, with the general home inspection. And I know, that may conflict, like, well, but I want him to tell me if it's working or not, or all that stuff. Again, he's just telling you if it works. He hasn't done any of the specifics. And then there's a rush to get them done. And then when there's a rush to get them done, what happens is the buyers are now trying to negotiate with the sellers, and you start getting this time crunch on signing off on contingencies and stuff. So,
yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of times they do that to try to save money on the inspection. But the way I look at inspections, they're not a cost; they're actually an investment. Mm-hmm. Meaning that, like, doing your $150 AC or heating inspection could actually get you a $5,000 credit, a $10,000 credit, or in some cases, it can get you a new HVAC system or a new AC system. So it's a relatively small cost.
And I did forget, sorry to break your thought on this, I did forget to tell you, if you do move forward with repairs or replacements, that $150 gets waived back into it. So you're really not putting much money up front to be able to get these repairs on the backside or the new system.
Are there ever times that, from an outlook, because we have buyers or clients that will bring their uncle and then they'll just be like, oh, that looks like a new system. Are there ever times where something looks good, but it doesn't function the way that it needs to function?
Absolutely.
Of course, installation.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so, you could install a unit today and it could be new and pretty and clean, but that doesn't mean it functions well. Yeah. Right. So that's why it's the overall look of everything. It's not just pinpointing when the installation date is. I've looked at units that are 15 years old. I'm like, these are in great condition. Everything's great. Your ductwork's in bad condition because the cable guy ran cables over and crushed it, right? So that's a problem. But the system itself in general is functioning at 100%, right? Fix these problems, we'll be right where we should be.
Got it. So anything else that you guys believe that we should add as it relates to home inspections, AC, heating, etc.?
I mean, again, it's the most expensive appliance in your home typically. So, the small investment on the front side pays dividends in the end on many things.
I really do believe in them. been with AirWorks for over 10 years now, and I have seen my time of home inspection reports. And like Kevin's saying, this is it is the largest expense of a appliance that you were going to have in your home. It's also your safety, your breathing every day in and out inside your home. It really makes sense to have a professional person out there taking a look at it and making sure that your system's running fine.
Yeah. What I was going to ask you guys, if let's say the ducting is torn and let's say it's older than 1980, do you guys do that cleanup, or do you guys bring like a third party company to help with that, or how does that typically work if it has any of that?
If it has asbestos, we do have a third party company that we work with that comes in and properly removes everything, encapsulates what's needed, takes it away, does all the professionalness of that, and then we come back in and we install those ducts back into there. We also have that with our insulation as well. So you mentioned rats at the beginning. If there's droppings and stuff inside your insulation, we also work with a company that'll come in, remediate all of that out, clean out your attic, and then we'll come back in and blow in some new attic insulation into the system, or into the home. Sorry.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, let's say somebody wanted to reach out to your company to schedule a home inspection or schedule part of that monthly program that you guys have, or just get their system checked. What's the best way for them to do that?
They have a few different ways. They can go on our website, airworksolutions.com, and book now through there. You can also give us a call at 805-754-6468. We have some wonderful customer service representatives that would answer the phone and get you all scheduled for that. They're great. And I think those are the two options you can do. You can also text the number as well, and schedule it through there. So we have three different options.
I love it. Well, I do want to say thank you for coming on the show. In today's episode, we had Kevin Allen and Kelly Long with AirWorks. We talked about why a HVAC and AC inspection is important. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you feel that this episode would be helpful, make sure to hit that share button. Thank you guys again. Appreciate you guys. And until next time, for our viewers.
Have a wonderful afternoon.